Making headlines for this week of December the 8th. Mind messing. Trump upsets the world. Or is he playing another strategy? Floodgate opens. 2017 marks the year that silence is no longer acceptable. Boom or bubble. Bitcoin explosion leads to speculation, but Wall Street appears to support currency. And science validates spirituality. Russian scientist notes energetic changes in our solar system, supporting the changes in humans and life on and beyond Earth.
With news around, upon, within, and beyond our planet, the program making disclosure official. This is Cosmic Vision News. Here is Jeffrey West.
Greetings and blessings to all. The dynamic has shifted, and it is no longer a question of what is happening in the world this week, to a question of what isn't happening in the world this week. It is getting virtually impossible to keep up with everything, whether it be verifiable fact, truth according to someone's perspective, disinformation, or misinformation. Keep in mind that many stories are coming out of Asia, Europe, and the Middle East and North America to serve as distractions, and the pattern seems to suggest that the people of those regions are being given events unique to their respective regions to keep people suitably distracted for reasons that are not yet fully known. The event that seems to have triggered so many around the world this week is the unilateral announcement by President Trump that the U.S. would be recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and would be making plans to move the U.S. embassy there. This is where we will start the newscast this week. Adam Gary, reporting for the Duran on December 6th, wrote that Trump has given a short statement at the White House during which he confirmed that Washington will begin to recognize the holy city of Jerusalem, Al-Quds, as the Israeli capital. No country in the world currently recognizes the city as an Israeli capital. Nations with normal diplomatic relations with Israeli politicians instead conduct their activity in Tel Aviv. World leaders had warned Trump that such a deeply scandalous move would inflame regional tensions and insult the sensibilities of millions around the globe. Gary notes the response from Turkey, writing that President Erdogan has given one of the strongest statements of any head of state yet on the matter, saying Ankara would consider severing long-standing diplomatic ties with Tel Aviv. Gary also adds that Trump nevertheless ceased to listen to secular and spiritual leaders and take the move. During his short statement, he said that the U.S. will support a peace process that Palestinian and Israeli representatives negotiate between themselves, but that Washington will no longer be in the business of offering concrete proposals. Reuters news service reported on the response from French President Macron, reporting that Macron said on Wednesday he did not support U.S. President Trump's unilateral decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital and called for calm across the region. Macron was quoted as saying, "This decision is a regrettable decision that France does not approve of and goes against international law and all the resolutions of the UN Security Council," Macron told reporters at a news conference in Algiers. There are several things about this story that are either confusing, intriguing, or both. Here are the facts to note first of all. President Trump made a decision. He made it unilaterally, meaning without any consultation, permission, or support from other countries or the UN. Leaders and countries around the world appear to be lining up to distance themselves from the U.S. and Trump as a result of this decision. Let's look at Israel for a moment. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and his wife are under investigation in Israel. Numerous global media outlets, including the CBC in Canada, began reporting in early August that Netanyahu is suspected of crimes involving fraud, breach of trust, and bribes in 2 corruption cases. Israeli police revealed back on August the 4th. At least 2 investigations have been opened against the Israeli leader. One investigation claims that Netanyahu improperly accepted lavish gifts from wealthy supporters, including Australian billionaire James Packer and Hollywood producer Arnon Milchan. Another investigation claims that Netanyahu's alleged attempts to strike a deal with publisher Arnon Moses of the Yediot Aharonot newspaper group to promote legislation to weaken Yediot's main competitor in exchange for more favorable coverage of him by Yediot. Accusations of improper use of funds and abusive behavior towards staff have also been made against Netanyahu's wife, Sarah. Protests are happening in Israel against Netanyahu at this time as well. Reuters reported on December 2nd that about 20,000 Israelis demonstrated in Tel Aviv on Saturday against government corruption and Netanyahu, who is under criminal investigation, as mentioned moments ago. Saturday's protest was prompted by a draft law expected to be ratified by Parliament next week, which would bar police from publishing its findings in 2 investigations of Netanyahu. Reuters added that critics say the draft law is a blatant attempt to protect Netanyahu and keep the public in the dark about his investigation. Supporters of the legislation say it is meant to protect suspects' rights. 2 local media news outlets, however, went a bit further, describing the protest as a march of shame. The Times of Israel reported that the protest, which was organized by the leaders of the weekly anti-corruption demonstrations held near Attorney General Avichai Mandelblitz's home in Petah Tikva, was held under the banner The March of Shame. Turnout was far higher than at previous such protests. Haaretz wrote the following: Levin, a retired Israeli army general, called on Netanyahu using his nickname. Bibi, I say to you today, history will not forgive you for what you are doing. Today, I say to the cowardly members of the government and the coalition, you won't be able to say you didn't see. By your silence, you lent a hand to corruption. Longtime CVN listeners will be familiar with the power and influence of the Khazarian Zionist Jewish mafia and the power it has had over the U.S. and other countries worldwide. At first glance, one may be inclined to judge Trump and the U.S. from the perspective of looking only at the decision that was made without even trying to observe the reactions. Let me quickly repeat what I said above. Trump took a decision, unilaterally, without approval of the UN or other leaders. Netanyahu, the apparent benefactor of such a monumental decision, is facing corruption charges and a growing anger from his own people. Remember, we are beginning to witness a monumental shift, not only in human consciousness, but also in geopolitics and geoeconomics. There are bigger things happening that have to at least be seen, even if they may not be fully understood yet, to grasp why certain unusual choices are being made. This makes it noteworthy to see how leaders like Macron react. Let's keep also in mind the report from former CIA agent David Steele that Trump was in possession of all the dirt against Clinton and other politicians even before he got elected. He had to keep his cards close to his chest until he could play them. Because Trump was not supported by either Democrats nor Republicans, he had to find a way to appease the powerful Jewish lobby. So he makes a wild campaign promise to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. Trump is developing a reputation for delivering on his campaign promises. So Trump has to deliver on this one. What might he stand to gain from such a seemingly controversial move? As we are beginning to discover, certain choices were made with the intent of draining the swamp and the pedophilia, sexual abuse issues, and they are growing by the day. A controversial move like this will keep people in North America, Europe, and the Middle East sufficiently distracted in their emotions while something else takes place. What that may be can only be speculated upon, and I'll speak to that in a moment, although numerous alternative sources hint that it has something to do with the U.S. having to make some radical new choices in the area of economics and finances. Keeping people distracted may serve to keep stock markets stable while certain things are being done. There is also this. As more truth comes out, and as members of the global elitists get exposed for their knowledge of or participation in criminal activities, the rats are turning on each other. A unilateral move like this, made by Trump, may serve to expose individuals at levels that are not yet understood. I might also offer this as a possible reason. Let's assume for one moment that Trump has known for a long time about the depths of the global corruption. Let us also assume that he knows the trouble Netanyahu is in or will soon be in. As Trump himself has noted, a move of this nature could take several years, referring to the move of the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. The Zionist beast is still dangerous, even if it is in the process of being neutralized. The public statement may be that the U.S. plans to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Behind the scenes, however, perhaps plans are quietly being made to prepare for a new two-state solution that will see the new embassy be assigned to Palestine, even though the public reason today is to recognize Israel. I'm going to come back again to this word unilateral. Macron and others are distancing themselves from this unilateral decision. If those leaders are or were puppets of the Khazarian mafia, one might expect overwhelming support for this decision. However, this does not appear to be the case. Something appears to be shifting. With all the people against him, Trump makes a somewhat sudden public announcement and does it unilaterally. Now, what might this tell you? What it tells me, personally, is that Trump has made a very strategic decision, even if we do not understand it. If I was to offer my speculation, I would say that he is seeking to expose certain people based on how they react to the announcement. He did not get approval from anyone because he needed to find out who is still a part of the swamp that needs to be drained. In my mind, taking such a big, unpopular decision alone would be to find out who is worthy of trust and who is not. Meanwhile, as expected, uninformed people spew their emotional verbal diarrhea on the subject via social media as though they are experts on something about which they have absolutely no idea. Instead of reacting emotionally and filling the social media with acidic and negative emotion, perhaps it may be better to just stay silent and reflect on what the deeper reasons may be for such a decision to be made. I'm saddened by postings in social media appearing on my newsfeed of CVN listeners who claim to be so informed and awakened, and yet they are being taken in on almost every corner, with almost every action taken by leaders around the world. We are not helping the situation, folks, by being reactive. We are supposed to be the calmer, grounded example of the change we are claiming to want for the world. I will be starting to cut connections with individuals I observe reacting in negative emotional ways without offering any kind of meaningful reflections on why choices are made. It is very possible I may be incorrect in the assessments I have made. However, I am offering a meaningful thought for reflection and peaceful debate. DNA studies have already invalidated the Khazarian claim to the Palestinian homeland. An article appearing on the Al Jazeera website on December 6th also states why Jerusalem is not the capital of Israel. This article writes, that under the 1947 UN partition plan to divide historical Palestine between Jewish and Arab states, Jerusalem was granted special status and was meant to be placed under international sovereignty and control. The special status was based on Jerusalem's religious importance to the three Abrahamic religions. In the 1948 war, following the UN's recommendation to divide Palestine, Zionist forces took control of the western half of the city and declared the territory part of its state. During the 1967 war, Israel captured the eastern half of Jerusalem, which was under Jordanian control at the time, and proceeded to effectively annex it by extending Israeli law, bringing it directly under its jurisdiction, in a breach of international law. In 1980, Israel passed the Jerusalem Law, stating that Jerusalem, complete and united, is the capital of Israel, thereby formalizing its annexation of East Jerusalem. In response, the UN Security Council passed Resolution 478 in 1980, declaring that law null and void. The international community, including the U.S., officially regards East Jerusalem as occupied territory. Additionally, no country in the world recognizes any part of Jerusalem as Israel's capital, with the exception of Russia, which announced its recognition of West Jerusalem as the capital of Israel earlier this year. In that statement, the Foreign Ministry stated the following: "We reaffirm our commitment to the UN-approved principles for a Palestinian-Israeli settlement, which include the status of East Jerusalem as the capital of the future Palestinian state. At the same time, we must state that in this context, we view West Jerusalem as the capital of Israel." It is important to note the wording. While affirming the importance of the UN, they also stated that in this context. This would seem to imply that they have some agreement, but the hint is that there may be some other context or goal that might be preferred. One article speculates openly that the Trump announcement is merely a weapon of mass distraction. In my own words. A December 6th article on the All News Pipeline website writes that while liberals on social media and the mainstream media are distracted by and literally having a meltdown over Trump's decision to publicly acknowledge Jerusalem as Israel's capital, something big is happening in Washington, D.C. Trump had hinted several days ago via a tweeted message that a cleaning of the FBI may be coming, and this is what appears to be happening. A video of Sean Hannity giving a very good synopsis of linking everything together from Clinton to emails to FBI cover-ups and lies will be found in the show Transcript for those who really feel a need to understand the mess. The article notes the following. Throughout the campaign season, we saw the then-candidate Trump, as well as when he was the official GOP nominee during the general election, consistently send the MSM and liberals off to chase their tails in outrage, while he went about his business of knocking 16 GOP primary candidates out of the race, then going on to win the general election. And as he has shown throughout his first year of his presidency, he continues to do the same thing, and they continue to fall for it. So while he just delivered his campaign promise of officially recognizing Jerusalem and starting his plan to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, we are noting there is much going on behind the scenes, while the MSM and liberals are distracted by raging over his recent Jerusalem announcement, indicating that we are close to seeing a huge drain of swamp monsters from some very high levels of U.S. intelligence agencies. The pressure on Mueller himself to step down is just beginning, as more dirt on him and his team continues to be revealed. The decision may soon be taken out of his hands. We are witnessing something significant and historic. For now, we can only speculate as to the moves being made on the geopolitical chessboard at this time. In other geopolitical news, the situation still appears rather unstable in Europe and particularly in Germany. In the wake of the collapse of Angela Merkel's coalition, those among the elitist ruling class appear to be desperate to find a way to unite to keep their dream of a united but controlled and enslaved European Union alive. Martin Schulz, who was formerly the unelected president of the European Parliament, gave up that seat to seek election as head of the SPD party to challenge Merkel. Reports have suggested that the strategy was to have two parties that kept the EU dream alive because Merkel's popularity was going down. The idea was to win votes away from the rebellious right. The strategy failed, however, and both Merkel and Schulz lost seats. With the failure of Merkel's coalition, Schulz is now in an uncomfortable position of having to sell his party on the idea that a coalition with Merkel will be good. This comes weeks after Schulz himself stated that such a coalition would be a disaster for the party. My bet is that he said this as an attempt to win the voters that were fed up with Merkel but who still wanted the EU in its current form. A London Guardian report on December 7th reports that the SPD's three-day party conference, which starts on December 8th in Berlin, also marks a crucial moment in the political career of the former European Parliament president as he faces being ousted as party leader for his U-turn. His U-turn, which he was pushed into by his own members of parliament, has earned Schulz much ridicule both nationally and within the SPD, and led to charges that he is unfit to continue to lead Germany's oldest political party. Over the next few days, he will attempt to embolden members with a 4-page manifesto of demands the SPD would take with it into any coalition talks. They include abolishing private health insurance, stricter climate protection goals, the end to a ban on some asylum seekers bringing family members to Germany, improved tax arrangements for families, and pension reform. SPD members will also be asked to examine the possibilities of tolerating a minority conservative government or even opting for new elections, the least popular choice among the German public according to polls. French President Macron and Greek Prime Minister Tsipras have both sent messages of support for Schulz. This would seem to suggest that the Greek Prime Minister has completely sold his soul to the European Union devil in betrayal of the people who elected him. Ollie Smith, writing 2 weeks ago on November 5th, or rather 25th for the London Express, wrote that EU officials fear this will put any chance of reforming the bloc on hold at a crucial moment after Mr. Macron had championed a new Europe with a united army and elected president. However, Mr. Macron's political rivals have said the crisis could provide the country with a much-needed opportunity to finally break free of German control. 2 days later, Smith wrote another article reporting on claims by BBC's Berlin correspondent Jenny Hill, who believes that Merkel is in her final days as leader. Schulz's agenda may have been revealed, however. An article on December 7th, appearing on the westmonster.com website, notes how Schulz has finally revealed publicly what many have suspected privately. The article republishes a tweet issued by Schulz stating the following: "I want a new constitutional treaty to establish the United States of Europe, a Europe that is not a threat to its member states, but a beneficial addition." Schulz intends that this would be done by 2025. In theory, this may sound good to some people. Schultz also tweeted the following: "A convention shall draft this treaty in close cooperation with the civil society and its people. Its results will then be submitted to all member states. Any state that won't ratify this treaty will automatically leave the EU." This could loosely be interpreted as being a threat. The article quotes European Member of Parliament Nigel Farage as replying this way to Schultz: "If this is the route they are taking, it could be a very small European Union. Thank God we are leaving." The coming few days will reveal whether or not the SPD party accepts Schultz's argument to work with Merkel and how the German people will react to this. Just as Trump has claimed that it is time to drain the swamp in the US, a European politician is claiming that it is time to do the same across the Atlantic. According to an article appearing on the Gatestone Institute website on November 26th, Geert Wilders, leader of the Dutch Party for Freedom in the Netherlands, wrote the following: "Our democracies in the western half of Europe have been subverted. Their goal is no longer to do what the people want. On the contrary, our political elites often do exactly the opposite. Our parliaments promote open-door policies that the majority of the people reject. Our governments sell out sovereignty to the EU against the will of the people. Our democracies have become fake democracies. They are multi-party dictatorships ruled by groups of establishment parties. The establishment parties control everything, not just the politicians in their pay, but also the top brass of the civil service, the mainstream media, even the courts. They call us populists because we stand for what the people want. They even drag us to court." The popular uprisings are the signs of the discontent of the people around the world. They are demanding leaders who will act and lead with integrity. Some countries around Europe, like Hungary, Austria, and Czech Republic, appear to be moving in this direction. Even Poland appears to be taking a firmer stand against the unelected leaders of the EU. In Iceland, another new prime minister has been elected following the resignation of the former prime minister due to a scandal. Like Austria, Iceland has a young leader in the form of 41-year-old Katrín Jakobsdóttir, leader of the Left-Green Alliance. Jakobsdóttir is a mother of three. An article on the Iceland Monitor website sums up what may be a very unique political situation, something that is not happening around Europe. According to this article, the new coalition government spans the entire political spectrum in Iceland, from right to left, and is comprised of the left-green movement, the Independence Party, and the Progressive Party. Joe Roberts, writing for Metro on December the 2nd, shares his observations about the new leader. Jakobsdóttir is a 41-year-old anti-war feminist, democratic socialist, who is also an expert on crime literature. Jakobsdóttir is also an environmentalist and plans to make the small island nation a world leader in fighting climate change. She is seen as one of the most trustworthy politicians in her country. Perhaps Iceland may have just gotten it right this time, and perhaps they can finally set an example for other European nations to follow. Without spending too much time on this issue, lots of news continues to come out with regard to pedophilia, sexual harassment, and the weakening power of global elitists connected to politics, finance, and entertainment. The dam has broken, and information is flooding into the public domain. Brad Pitt has come out this year on the subject of elite Hollywood pedophiles controlling America. Jay Greenberg of Neon Nettle covered this story back in June. Greenberg writes, Mr. Pitt describes how the whole TV and film industry is run around a culture of grooming children for child trafficking networks that reach across the United States and beyond into the upper echelons of the political spectrum and societal hierarchy. Pitt was quoted as saying the following: "You think Hollywood is about making movies? That's just a byproduct. It's about money and, more importantly, power and control. The people who run Hollywood also run America and most of the world, and they don't care about movies. You've heard of the Illuminati, right? The secret societies, the politicians, the bankers, and the media, they're the ones running these pedophile rings, and they're the ones that run the world, and it all goes back to Hollywood. Kids want to be in movies, or should I say, parents want their kids to be in movies, and they'll do anything to get them famous. It's easy pickings, and it's not just movies. It's TV, music, it's showbiz. The parents are basically selling their kids' souls for fame." Corey Feldman is a victim of pedophilia, and he has long been attempting to speak out. Finally, this year, people and some media are taking him seriously. Earlier this year, Feldman began to name some of the abusers within Hollywood circles. Now, this week, new evidence is surfacing. Fox News reported on December 6th the discovery of Feldman's 1993 audio files of alleged sexual abuse to the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office. The article reports that the former child actor claimed in October that he had given the names of sexual predators in Hollywood to the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office in 1993 during their investigation into Michael Jackson's molestation charges. The Sheriff's Office denied those claims, saying they had no records of Feldman revealing such information. Until now. The evidence vindicates Feldman's claims and will bring even greater credibility to the information he has shared and will likely continue to share. Also this week, on December the 1st, Tom Hanks has begun lending his voice to the movement. Carrie Wedler, writing for the Anti-Media, writes the following: "Almost 2 months after sexual harassment allegations began rocking Hollywood, beloved actor Tom Hanks has broken his silence about the ongoing crisis. Hanks spoke about Hollywood's institutional problem with sexual exploitation during a roundtable discussion with The Hollywood Reporter that also included James Franco, John Boyega, Gary Oldman, Sam Rockwell, and Willem Dafoe." Here is what Hanks had to say.
The bad stuff can happen on a movie as well. There's some people that go into this business because they got off in having power. We produced a project in which someone said there's an element of harassment that's going on here. And as soon as we heard, you gotta jump right in. You gotta you talk to every one of the guilds and find out what happens, and you go immediately there. And there can be that type of predatory aspect on a set because you think, well, we're in the circus and we're on the road, so therefore do the rules really apply? They don't really apply. There's the other aspect of it is that come try to get this job from me. You want me to give you a job? Come on, come prove to me that you want this job. That's a sin, and that's against the law, and that is a degree of harassment and predatory behavior that goes against an assumed code of ethics.
Perhaps the strongest revelations this week, however, come from Mel Gibson. Baxter Dimitri, writing for YourNewsWire.com, reported on November 30th that Hollywood studios are drenched in the blood of innocent children, according to Mel Gibson, who claims the consumption of baby blood is so popular in Hollywood that it basically operates as a currency of its own. Hollywood elites are an enemy of mankind, continually acting contrary to our best interests and breaking every God-given taboo known to man, including the sanctity of children, Mel Gibson said in London, where he is promoting his role in Daddy's Home 2, his most prominent on-screen role in years. It's an open secret in Hollywood. These people have their own religious and spiritual teachings and their own social and moral frameworks. They have their sacred texts. They are sick, believe me, and they couldn't be more at odds with what America stands for. Gibson has been out of the industry for the last 10 years after being blacklisted in 2006 for trying to speak out on Hollywood. He was accused of screaming anti-Semitic slurs, but it now appears that he was exposing the Khazarian Jewish control of Hollywood. Gibson was quoted as saying to people in London, "I don't know how to break it to you gently. Hollywood is institutionalized pedophilia. They are using and abusing kids." He goes into more satanic details that I choose not to air, but details will be in a link to the story in a show transcript. Benjamin Fulford reported this week that Operation Mockingbird has been deactivated. Mockingbird is the apparent CIA program that took control of the mainstream media to use it as an asset for information and control. Could this perhaps be why Time magazine has now chosen the Silence Breakers as their People of the Year? According to the article making the announcement on the Time.com website, these silence breakers have started a revolution of refusal, gathering strength by the day, and in the past 2 months alone, their collective anger has spurred immediate and shocking results. Nearly every day, CEOs have been fired, moguls toppled, icons disgraced. In some cases, criminal charges have been brought. Emboldened by Ashley Judd, Rose McGowan, Taylor Swift, and a host of other prominent accusers, women everywhere have begun to speak out about the inappropriate, abusive, and in some cases illegal behavior they've faced. When multiple harassment claims bring down a charmer like former Today Show host Matt Lauer, women who thought they had no recourse see a new, wide-open door. When a movie star says, #MeToo, it becomes easier to believe the cook who's been quietly enduring for years. A new empowered movement has begun, and although it is a good thing, it is also my hope and prayer that this movement will not be used negatively against honorable and well-intentioned men who respectfully and politely try to search for loving partners. In some financial news for the week, the big news is the explosion in the price of Bitcoin. For any lucky and fortunate people who had money active in Bitcoin and are cautious and wise, Christmas will be coming early for you. In a matter of days, the price of the currency has exploded past the USD 17,000 mark as of the time this story was written, late on December the 6th. Sources are speculating that Wall Street folks who previously may have ignored Bitcoin may be trying to get into the currency, either to make money or to help inflate the currency to create a bubble that they can later pop. One other theory will be reported on in a few moments. Now, being too greedy may result in getting burned. John Buck, writing for Cointelegraph on December 7th, shares this. Just 2 weeks ago, the market capitalization for all cryptocurrencies crossed the 300 billion mark, with Bitcoin holding strong dominance of that market. However, since that time, Bitcoin's meteoric rise has left the rest of the market in the dust, with its own market capitalization nearly doubling in the past 2 weeks. The price rise to over 17,000 US has been the cause of the market capitalization growth, as substantial amounts of money have entered the marketplace. The prospect of Bitcoin entering futures markets, both in the US and abroad, has provided a reason for institutional investors to participate in a significant way. While cries of a bubble continue to be made public, others, such as investor Mark Yusko, suggest that the price has only just begun to rise. Bitcoin's continuous front-page coverage in mainstream media only helps. Even if the coverage is negative, it gets people thinking about the currency. A Deutsche Welle article on December the 2nd reports that for the first time, a portion of the Bitcoin trading market will take place on major U.S. exchanges. None of the new trading options involve ownership of the cryptocurrency, but will be based on derivatives contracts. U.S. regulators on Friday approved plans for Bitcoin derivatives to be traded on 2 major officially regulated international exchanges for the first time. Until now, the only regulated exchange for Bitcoin trading was Ledger X, a small U.S. options exchange. Despite a warning from the Commodities and Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC did go ahead and allow the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and the Chicago Board Options Futures Exchange to offer contracts for futures of Bitcoin. Their approval also opens up Bitcoin trading to a much larger group of investors and traders who have been reluctant to purchase Bitcoin on the many scattered private exchanges. The Nasdaq exchange also announced plans to bring Bitcoin to investors, and it is very likely these actions that are responsible for the price shooting up significantly. The good news about this is that if the markets are looking to begin selling futures, it is a sign that there is faith that Bitcoin is going to be around for a long time. On November 27th, RT reported the following. While some have suggested Bitcoin's meteoric rise signals a potential cryptocurrency bubble, RT's Max Kaiser says fiat currencies like the US dollar are collapsing against it. I think we are seeing fiat currencies in a hyperinflationary collapse against Bitcoin, he said, adding that we'll see a major price correction somewhere at the 25,000 per Bitcoin level. Up until that price is achieved, it looks like we'll see a pretty strong upward move. According to Kaiser, there is a huge market for other cryptocurrencies, but Bitcoin has an entrenched network that is now growing exponentially. It is beyond the reach of any competition, of any nation-state, and any cooperation to defeat it, the host of Kaiser Report said. Bitcoin is a perfect currency, something that is utterly changing the global finance and market, and is putting banksters and the central banks out of business, which, according to Kaiser, should be applauded because they've been horribly bad actors. We need to get rid of them and let Bitcoin transform our world. He also suggested an interesting scenario that Bitcoin could become something of a financial black hole, and all cash that is currently invested in stocks and bonds is moved over into Bitcoin. That will lead to a stock or bond market crash, or both, as we see the price of Bitcoin move into that $25,000 range. That's something that no central bank or country will be able to stop, and it's becoming a real scenario, a real threat. I personally have learned more about Bitcoin investing over the last little while. Although I have not had much to put in, I do have a little, and it was growing. I didn't want to get too greedy and risk losing it because I may need it for expenses, and so I sold far, far, far too early, thinking there would be a correction. Sadly, I have missed this meteoric rise, and I can only blame myself. Had I stayed in, I might now have rent for 4 or 5 months somewhere in Europe. This, however, is how the game goes, and obviously, I still have much to learn. More articles on recent Bitcoin news will be in the show transcript for this story. It will only be a matter of time before new solutions taking advantage of the blockchain or hash graph technology will appear. With regard to blockchain technology, the Australian Stock Exchange announced on December 7th that it intends to implement blockchain technology to replace its current system for processing equity transactions. ASX, the Australian Stock Exchange, in partnership with Digital Asset, who are providing the technology, will be the world's first stock exchange to adopt blockchain technology in the operation of its core services. The exchange is implementing blockchain technology to replace its current clearing and settling system called CHESS, the Clearinghouse Electronic Sub-Register System. The distributed nature of blockchain is an upgrade, as it provides an opportunity to transact faster and more securely, reducing costs across the board. Another example is for online payment platforms. Many CVN listeners use PayPal, for example, and they have likely noticed, as I have, that PayPal charges quite a bit for their transactions. I have been looking around for alternative solutions to using PayPal because I am losing faith in their services and I dislike their fees. John Buck, writing for Cointelegraph on October 23rd, reports that online payment platforms have not kept up with the times, and they suffer from limited functionality and have no cryptocurrency solutions. PayPal and various other platforms are useful, but none of them provide a full feature set. UTrust, a blockchain payment platform, is seeking to bring the functionality of PayPal and other online payment gateways into the cryptocurrency world. They propose to compete with these platforms and beat them at their own game. By uniting the best features of the traditional online payment platform with the best and most adopted features of cryptocurrencies, UTrust is poised to radically change the way online transactions occur. The following is from a video found on the UTrust website.
Everyone is concerned in creating a new cryptocurrency, but everyone forgets that without a strong payment protection mechanism, the majority of crypto money out there is useless regarding online payments. Without a safe environment and a trust relationship between buyer and seller, this virtual money is not practical. Therefore, it's seen as pure speculation by many. On one side, you have the outdated traditional online payment solutions, filled with fraud. But they have a buyer protection mechanism. On the other side, you have the new blockchain payment solutions. They eliminated the nasty fraud, they are fast and cheaper in fees. But there is no buyer protection whatsoever. By blending a strong buyer protection mechanism with blockchain's huge advantages, UTrust is the solution for the paradox of online payments. UTrust is fast, low in fees, and undeniably the safest payment platform in the world, both for buyer and seller.
Unlike many other crypto coins, ours is backed by UTrust platform itself. Our token can be used in the platform to make payments free of fees. In essence, the UTrust token is a valuable asset, backed by its own platform where it can be spent. The more the platform grows, the more places will be available for you to spend your tokens. Not only that, but it also contains a coupling mechanism designed to protect investors' value. In the UTrust platform, you can use any of the major cryptocurrencies to make payments, such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, or your favorite crypto flavor. A small percentage of the charge fee is converted to UTrust tokens and burned. This mechanism decreases the amount of UTrust tokens in the market pool as the number of transactions increase, thereby reducing the token supply and driving up the value of the UTrust token. In essence, the more platform transactions occur, the higher the value of the token.
UTrust doesn't aim to be exclusive for the tech-savvy, but rather to be an open platform for everyone in the world. In order to empower people from all backgrounds, we designed UTrust following a human-centered approach. By putting the user first, we were able to design a product that is both friendly and powerful.
Every time you're doing something that has never been done before, you're faced with the question: do I embrace it? Do I embrace all the unsolved problems and uncharted territory that comes with being first? Or do I simply give up and stop trying? Well, we decided to embrace it because these are the exact type of situations where we thrive as a team. We feed off hard problems, both technical and in terms of product. And in doing so, we truly believe we'll come out with a product that has the potential to change the world.
In a second article on October 31st, Buck writes that most online users have been burnt by PayPal or another digital payment system at one time or another. UTrust, the first of its kind blockchain-based payment platform, intends to bring the best parts of PayPal-type services and the best parts of the cryptocurrency world together into a single seamless platform, much of which you heard on the audio a few moments ago but may have been a little bit hard to understand. Another video will appear in the show transcript giving more information on how the platform works. From what is offered here, it does appear to be a very good solution to consider for future transactions. Buyer and seller protection appears to be secure, and this also appears to be reflected in how successful the ICO, or initial coin offering, has been. According to the website, there have been 3 rounds of investment opportunities. Private investors were allowed on August 25th for worth about $2 million. A pre-coin ICO was issued on August 28th worth $1.5 million, and then a public ICO on November 2nd worth $17.85 million. All 3 are now completely sold out, assuming the reporting of this information is honest. For those seeking an alternative to PayPal, while also preparing for the coming future of transactions involving cryptocurrencies, this is one solution that might be worth a bit of investigation to determine if it is a solution for one's future financial needs. All the relevant links will be in the show transcript. While digital currencies continue their explosive growth, the shift to a new economic paradigm continues on another front as the countries of the East continue moving ahead with an agenda that suggests that the old paradigm is no longer relevant. Adam Gary, writing for the Duran on November 26th, reported that First Deputy Chairman of Russia's central bank, Sergei Shvetsov, has stated that the BRICS countries are currently in discussions to form a new gold trading system that is entirely separate from existing systems based in Western Europe. As the 2 most prominent BRICS states, Russia and China are also the world's 2 largest producers of gold and are in the international top 10 nations in terms of gold reserves, with India only slightly further behind. It would seem logical for the BRICS to take the trading mechanisms into their own hands. Shvetsov was quoted in the article as saying that the traditional trade system based in London and partially in Swiss cities is becoming less relevant as new trade hubs are emerging, first of all in India, China, and South Africa. He said, adding, "We are discussing the possibility of establishing a single system of gold trade, both within BRICS and at the level of bilateral contacts." Gary also adds the following. The Bank of Russia has already signed an agreement with China to set up a bilateral gold trade, which should be formulated and functional in 2018. A BRICS-wide gold trading system would be yet another blow to Western control of global currency exchange, metal exchange, and would further challenge the status of the dollar as the de facto global reserve currency and standard currency of international exchange. The article notes, and CVN has also reported on, some key events that are pointing to a rapid decline of the US dollar as a global reserve currency. The article shares these key points. Venezuela's embrace of China's petro-yuan. China's new system to buy oil futures contracts in yuan, which can be easily convertible to gold at the exchanges in Shanghai and Hong Kong. Bilateral trade between BRICS members and wider Eurasian partners in local currencies. Russia's forthcoming crypto ruble. And proposals for a BRICS-wide cryptocurrency. On top of these, CVN has also reported that both Russia and China have established their own development banks, their own systems of international money transfer, and are cooperating extensively on the Belt and Road Initiative. It is a movement that is growing rapidly. Gary notes that with countries throughout the world, including Turkey, Venezuela, and Iran, beginning to trade in national currencies, or in Chinese yuan, the power of the US dollar as a standard trading and reserve currency is being actively and openly undermined by China, Russia, and their trading partners. This, of course, is perfectly legal, as countries can trade in any currency they wish. They can even use barter as a means of exchange, as Iran sometimes still does with Russia. Along with other countries, Russia is also moving forward in setting up a digital version of its national currency, the ruble. Gary reports also on Russia's progress in this area. He writes that the crypto ruble is being worked on at the moment and should be available soon, although a precise timeline is not yet available. Gary refers to an article in Sputnik News that explains the process and benefits of a crypto ruble. According to the article, a Russian crypto ruble that can be easily exchanged for traditional rubles in Russia and ostensibly anywhere else in the world will automatically give the new cryptocurrency a marketplace confidence that many alternatives currently lack. Such a phenomenon will demystify the process for many possible cryptocurrency users. At the same time, if, in the eyes of the Russian government, a crypto ruble is as legitimate a currency as the ruble, it will allow wholesalers, retailers, and possibly even independent financial traders to use the crypto ruble to avoid the sanctions against Russian banks, which their own anti-libertarian Western governments have imposed. Additionally, if the crypto ruble becomes easily convertible to popular Western-originated cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, it would solve the problem of Bitcoin users being shut out of the Russian market. All one would need to do in order to engage in transactions with Russian businesses using a crypto wallet would be to digitally exchange one's Bitcoins, or any other existing cryptocurrency, for a desired amount of crypto rubles. The aforementioned process would generally take the same amount of time or even less than a traditional online bank transfer. In this sense, the crypto ruble helps open up Russia for new entrepreneurial ventures while ensuring that possible fraud and money laundering loopholes are closed. Gary concludes in this article the same point that CVN has been stating for since 2014. Gary states that Russia is therefore very much at the forefront of challenging U.S. dollar hegemony, which is itself the bedrock of U.S. geopolitical hegemonic power. With two of the three superpowers openly working on systems of exchange to dig into the dollar's market share, it is no wonder that the U.S. is working so hard to undermine the Sino-Russian partnership. This is the real story, not the Russiagate myth. An article on the Bullion Star website by Ronan Manley on December 2nd adds a bit more information. According to Manley, in March, the Bank of Russia opened its first foreign representative office, choosing the location as Beijing in China. At the time, the Bank of Russia portrayed the move as a step towards greater cooperation between Russia and China on all manner of financial issues, as well as being a strategic partnership between the Bank of Russia and the People's Bank of China. The article also notes that aggressive purchasing of gold being done by both Russia and China. The article reports the following. From 2000 until the middle of 2007, the Bank of Russia held around 400 tons of gold in its official reserves, and these holdings were relatively constant. But beginning in the third quarter 2007, the bank's gold policy shifted to one of aggressive accumulation. By early 2011, Russian gold reserves had reached over 800 tons. By the end of 2014, the central bank held over 1,200 tons, and by the end of 2016, the Russians claimed to have more than 1,600 tons of gold. As of October 2017, Russia is believed now to have just over 1,800 tons of gold in its reserves and is on track to surpass China next year, unless China adds more to its reserves. China's holdings are reported as being at 1,842 tons as of October 2017. Manley concludes his article with the following. When the first deputy chairman of the Bank of Russia points to London and Switzerland as having less relevance, while spearheading a new BRICS cross-border gold trading system involving China and Russia and other major economies with large reserves of gold and an impressive volume of production and consumption of the precious metal, it becomes clear that moves are afoot by Russia, China, and other nations to bring gold price discovery back to the realm of the physical gold markets. The icing on the cake in all this may be gold price benchmarks based on international physical gold trading. To put all this into somewhat easier terms to understand, all it simply means is that the global fiat currency system, the one that has enslaved humanity for our entire lifetime, is being targeted for replacement, and the gold-backed system, along with a more transparent cryptocurrency system, appear to be declaring the old paradigm redundant. Meanwhile, RT reports the following on December 2nd. The Central Bank of Russia is increasing the country's gold reserves to meet a goal set by President Vladimir Putin to make Russia less vulnerable to geopolitical risks. As of November, Russia had 1,801 tons of gold, accounting for 17.3% of all reserves. Russia is the sixth largest gold owner after the United States, Germany, Italy, France, and China. Since Putin's election as president, Russia's gold reserves have increased more than 500%. There is a part of me that highly doubts that the U.S. possesses large amounts of gold, as reported here, given the debt of the country and the economic shift away from the U.S. However, perhaps it is necessary to report that to prevent people and the markets from panicking. While Russia and China move forward aggressively with gold to back up their currencies and protect against U.S. sanctions or manipulated oil pricing, the country of Venezuela is embarking on its own strategy to shield itself from U.S. sanctions. It should be first noted that there are reports that Russia has written off $3 billion in Venezuelan debt, thus helping the country to restructure and position itself against the dying Western economic model. However, part of Venezuela's new strategy involves cryptocurrencies. Adam Gary of the Duran reported on December 4th that months after Russia became the first country to announce the creation of a state-backed crypto ruble, Venezuela has followed suit, announcing the creation of El Petro, a state-sanctioned cryptocurrency to be backed by Venezuela's extensive reserves of crude oil. Venezuela has already broken free of dollar dependence, as months ago Caracas announced that it would be trading its oil using China's petro yuan. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro also stated that he would like to begin trade with Russia in the ruble. With Venezuela heavily sanctioned by the United States, El Petro looks to be another tool which Venezuela can use to continue and conduct international commerce without relying on dollar-based financial institutions. A Sputnik News article added that in August, the United States imposed sweeping financial sanctions on Venezuela, forbidding U.S. businesses from lending to the Venezuelan government or the state-run oil and gas company, PDVSA. The sanctions also cut into the dividends that PDVSA's U.S. subsidiary, Citgo, may send back to Venezuela. In a separate but slightly related story, looking at the opposite side of the financial spectrum, the corrupt structures of the European Central Bank, however, continue to be exposed. RT reported on November 20th a plan by the ECB to end deposit protection, while also limiting the amount of money that can be withdrawn from accounts. Although much is being exposed, we are also witnessing the rise to the replacement to the criminally corrupt and dysfunctional system that has been used negatively against humanity and also our planet. In some space-related news this week, fans of Star Trek may recall seeing images of space ports where various versions of the Starship Enterprise were built in space. According to RT on November 26th, Russian space agency Roscosmos and S7 Airlines are teaming up to build something very similar. The article reports that Roscosmos and Russia's S-7 airline have agreed to construct an orbital cosmodrome, according to a source in the aerospace industry, as quoted by Daily Izvestia. The new complex is expected to be used to assemble and fuel space vehicles and launch them into near-Earth orbits, as well as for Moon and Mars flights. The port is also planned as a refueling and supply point and other functions related to space projects. One of the S7 Group's 10 subsidiaries is involved in space rocket launches. The company owns Sea Launch, the floating rocket launching system, which uses a mobile maritime launch platform for equatorial launches of commercial payloads. S7 purchased the platform in September of 2016. Andrei Ionin, a member of the Russian Academy of Cosmonautics, was quoted in the article as saying that this is going to be the first big agreement involving a large private investor in the Russian space industry. It is a unique situation, not only for Russia, but for the whole world as a new stage requiring the new creation, or rather the creation of new rocket and space systems is coming, he said, as quoted by the media. Reading between the lines, it is not too hard to see the continued soft disclosure of news relating to space and the existence of technologies and ultimately civilizations of a non-Earth origin. It is also not too hard to connect this Russian project to the upcoming World Cup soccer football tournament in Russia next year, an event that has a logo very clearly identifying a theme of Earth, space, humanity, and travel. As both CVN and Stephen Bassett of the Paradigm Research Group have noted, perhaps it will be Russia that takes the lead in revealing to the world the existence of life and technologies beyond Earth, while preparing humanity to meet our galactic families. Over to some science and technology-related news now. New or unexpected scientific discoveries are becoming more and more normal these days. Ideas concerning new forms of energy are no exception to this. An article by Mike McCrae on the Science Alert website from November 24th reports the following. By all measures, graphene should not exist. The fact it does comes down to a neat loophole in physics that sees an impossible two-dimensional sheet of atoms act like a solid 3D material. New research has delved into graphene's discovering a physical phenomenon on an atomic scale that could be exploited as a way to produce a virtually limitless supply of clean energy. The article notes that the amount of energy output is not exceptionally high yet, but this particular research suggests that graphene could power watches and pacemakers and other smaller devices indefinitely. The article notes that for an impossible molecule, graphene has become something of a wonder material that has turned physics on its head. It's already being touted as a building block for future conductors. Perhaps we'll also be seeing it power the future of a new field of electronic devices as well. The following video-audio clip offers more on the potential of graphene.
Our lives revolve around portable power. Batteries literally make our lives possible. And that trend is only accelerating, especially with the growing pace of electric cars. So the race is on to develop newer, better energy storage solutions. Our old friend, the AA battery, the nickel-cadmium battery, it's done a good job, but it's not rechargeable. You can only use it once. It's very wasteful. You throw it away. Lithium-ion batteries are rechargeable, but they take a really long time to charge, and they eventually lose effectiveness. But there is a third option on the way. It's called supercapacitors. They charge immediately, they run forever, and they never wear down. There's just one thing we still have to figure out. They don't hold that much energy. In fact, you would have to have a vast amount of surface area in order to be able to get anywhere near the kind of storage capacity that a lithium-ion battery has. So lithium-ions have a high energy density, meaning they hold a lot of electricity, whereas supercapacitors have a very high power density, meaning they can transfer that energy much faster. So if, theoretically, you could have supercapacitors with the same energy density as lithium-ion batteries, you'd be able to charge your phone in seconds and be good for the rest of the day. And with wireless charging on the forefront, you might just be able to just set it down on a pad while you're eating breakfast and you're good to go. You could charge your laptop in the time it takes you to take a whiz. And dare we dream it, an EV that actually charges faster than it takes to pump gas. That is the dream. And there is one material that can make this dream a reality. It's called graphene. Graphene is basically a one-layer thick lattice of carbon atoms, and it has some just insane properties. It's 200 times stronger than steel, but incredibly light. It's biodegradable, it's biocompatible, meaning you can use it inside the human body. They say it can be used to desalinate seawater, it can build space elevators, it could be the basis of supercomputers, but for our purposes, it also happens to be one of the most electrically capacitive substances known to man. It has the same energy density as lithium-ion batteries, but with the power density of supercapacitors. And since it's only one atom thick, you can cram a lot of surface area in a tiny space.
There are some inherent challenges with graphene, but this is usually the case with any new kind of technology. The audio clip notes that work in this field is not exactly new. This technology has been explored since around 2013. CVN reported on this potential technology at that time. Now, regular graphene may be revealed to be good, but there may be something even better. CVN has reported at least once on the benefits of hemp, and hemp fibers may ultimately prove to be better than even graphene. An article from 2014 appearing on the BBC website seems to agree. James Morgan, BBC science reporter, writes that the waste fibers from hemp crops can be transformed into high-performance energy storage devices, according to scientists. They cooked cannabis bark into carbon nanosheets and built supercapacitors on a par with, or better than, graphene, the industry gold standard. Electric cars and power tools could harness this hemp technology, the U.S. researchers say. Dr. David Mitlin of Clarkson University in New York was quoted as saying that we're making graphene-like materials for 1,000th of the price of graphene, and we're doing it with waste. The hemp we use is perfectly legal to grow. It has no THC in it at all, so there's no overlap with any recreational activities. The article continues. In countries including China, Canada, and the UK, hemp can be grown industrially for clothing and building materials. But the leftover bast fiber, the inner bark, typically ends up as landfill. Dr. Mitlin's team took these fibers and recycled them into supercapacitors, energy storage devices which are transforming the way electronics are powered. Bio-waste is becoming a secret, being exposed as great for energy generation. The article adds that you can do really interesting things with bio-waste. We've pretty much figured out the secret sauce of it, said Dr. Mitlin. The trick is to tailor the right plant fiber to the right electrical device, according to their organic structure. With banana peels, you can turn them into a dense block of carbon. We call it pseudographite, and that's great for sodium-ion batteries, he explained. But if you look at hemp fiber, its structure is the opposite. It makes sheets with high surface area, and that's very conducive to supercapacitors. The first step, he explained, is to cook it, almost like a pressure cooker. It's called hydrothermal synthesis. Once you dissolve the lignin and the semicellulose, it leaves these carbon nanosheets, a pseudographene structure. It's a waste product looking for a value-added application. People are almost paying you to take it away. And if the technology really takes off, it could help economies, he argues. It's a robust plant. You can even grow it in Alberta and Manitoba, provinces in central Canada. A lot of farmers would be thrilled to grow hemp. CVN has long been an advocate for hemp as a solution to many, if not all, of our current economic problems. The real problem has been in dealing with the political forces that are being controlled to criminalize a substance that does not deserve to be criminalized, simply because it is a threat to big oil, Big Pharma, Big Medicine, and others. Over the years, and especially since 2012, the alternative, or New Age, or spiritual communities have been hearing about energetic changes taking place not only on Earth, but also out in our universe and solar system. As the years moved on, politicians began making bigger claims about climate change and that the planet is warming due to something that humans are responsible for. The irony there is that politicians sell their souls to people and companies who make products that destroy our planet, and they make the profit while the taxpayers are left to take on the burden of paying for their destructive waste and destructive decisions. An article appearing on the awaken.cc website by Art Rosenblum of the Aquarian Research Foundation reports the following. A Russian scientist says the solar system is moving into a new energy zone that is transforming the magnetic fields of the planets. The scientist's name is Dr. A.N. Dmitriev. For most CVN listeners, this will not be much of a surprise. The article explains more. Hard facts that are going unreported in America. The atmospheres of the planets are changing. Dr. Dmitriev's work shows that the planets themselves are changing. They are undergoing changes in their atmospheres. For example, the Martian atmosphere is getting sizably thicker than it was before. The Mars Observer probe in 1997 lost one of its mirrors, which caused it to crash because the atmosphere was about twice as dense as they calculated, and basically the wind on that little mirror was so high that it blew right off the device. Earth's moon is growing an atmosphere. Also, the moon is growing an atmosphere that's made up of a compound Dmitriev refers to as natrium. Dmitriev says that around the moon there is this 6,000 kilometer deep layer of natrium that wasn't there before. And we're having this kind of change in Earth's atmosphere in the upper levels, where HO, or hydrogen oxide, is a gas forming that wasn't there before. It simply did not exist in the quantity that it does now. It's not related to global warming, and it's not related to CFCs, or carbon fluorocarbons emissions, or any of that stuff. It's just showing up. And there's more. The article continues. The planets are experiencing sizable changes in their overall brightness. Venus, for example, is showing us marked increases in its overall brightness. Jupiter has gotten to have such a high energetic charge that there is actually a visible tube of ionizing radiation that's formed between its moon Io. You can actually see the luminous energy tube in photographs that have been taken more recently. And the planets are having a change in their fields. The magnetic fields are becoming stronger. Jupiter's magnetic field has more than doubled. Uranus's magnetic field is changing. Neptune's magnetic field is increasing. These planets are becoming brighter. Their magnetic field strength is getting higher. Their atmospheric qualities are changing. Uranus and Neptune appear to have had recent pole shifts. When the Voyager 2 space probe flew past Uranus and Neptune, the apparent north and south magnetic poles were sizably offset from where the rotational pole was. In one case, it was 50 degrees off, and in the other case, the difference was around 40 degrees, both of which are pretty big changes. The overall changes could essentially be broken down into three categories: energy field changes, luminosity changes, and atmospheric changes. On Earth, the following has been observed. Overall volcanic activity has increased 500% since 1975. Natural disasters increased 410% between 1963 and 1993. And the sun's magnetic field has increased by 230% since 1901. So the question is, why are these changes occurring? Dmitriev's work, as reported in the article, observes that the solar system itself is moving into an area where the energy is more highly charged. That higher charged energy is in turn exciting the plasma and causing more of it to form, so you see more luminosity, more brightness. This energy is then flowing into the sun, which in turn emits the energy and spreads it out along its equatorial plane, which is called the ecliptic. This, in turn, is saturating interplanetary space, which causes the solar emissions to travel more quickly and charge up the energy on the planets. And this is conscious energy that is changing how the planet works, how it functions, and what kind of life it supports. The harmonics of the DNA spiral itself are altering. That's the real hidden cause of spontaneous mass evolutions in previous epochs of time. All this is happening all at the same time, and it's all working up to a crescendo where there's going to be a sudden shift. In other words, we will get to the point where we are so far into the new level of energy that there will be a sudden expansion of the basic harmonic wavelengths that the sun emits as it radiates energy out of itself. This increase in energy emission will change the basic nature of all matter in the solar system. The planets are pushed slightly farther away from the sun, and the atoms and molecules that make them up actually expand in terms of their physical size. If Dmitriev's work is accurate, it would validate what many esoteric sources have been stating for a number of years now. We are moving into a different form of energetic field and vibration. We are experiencing a shift in human and planetary consciousness as a result of this new energy, and it is very likely that this new energy is contributing on some level to the changes that are now transforming our world on political and economic levels. It would also explain why the forces enslaving humanity are so desperate to start wars and keep humanity locked into energies of fear, separation, illness, and debt. Of course, obviously, they're not succeeding, as validated by all the revelations that are now coming out at this time. And again, if accurate, this represents very positive news for humanity and also for the planet. Finally, in health-related news, as you heard moments ago, the energies are changing not only on Earth and within our bodies, but also beyond our planet. As a result of these changes, it is to be expected that different people will experience symptoms of these changes in different ways. An article appearing on the Enlightened Consciousness website from October 23rd explores further the spiritual meanings behind physical aches, pains, and illnesses. The article is a bit long and cannot be covered completely within this story, but numerous areas of the body are covered, basically from head to foot. Hair, or the head, scalp issues, skin issues, brain and nervous system issues, the skull, face, eyes, ears, sinuses, nose, lips, mouth, teeth, gums, neck, throat, the larynx, shoulders, arms, wrists, hands and fingers, ribs and torso, lungs, heart, arteries, diaphragm, pericardium, the metabolic glandular system, and the organs, the liver, gallbladder, stomach, small intestine, spleen, pancreas, blood sugar, the large intestine, colon, appendix, and rectum, kidneys, bladder, reproductive organs, the spine, sacrum, hips, legs, knees, ankles, feet, and the soles of the feet, as well as numerous types of illnesses, including asthma, bleeding, cancer, chills, coldness, diabetes, eczema, emphysema, fevers, infections, gout, numbness, weakness, pain, palsy, and pneumonia. If you are experiencing issues in any of these areas, it may be worth taking a closer look at the article in the show transcript to see if you resonate with what is being shared. Addictions are other issues that many are being forced to deal with at this time. Substance addictions are more familiar to people, such as alcohol, pills, medication, nicotine, and more. What is less commonly understood are the energetic addictions associated with emotions and fears. People who are addicted to abusive energies, for example, will seek to create an abusive situation. in order to get the hypothalamus part of the brain to produce the neuropeptide combination that will produce the chemicals to send to the cells of the body and create the fix that the abuser is seeking. This is just one example. There is some good news concerning ayahuasca in this week's newscast. Ayahuasca is a nature plant mixture commonly used in South American shamanic healing work. Although banned or controlled in many Western countries, more and more people are stepping into the unknown to explore any possible solution that may help one deal with whatever energetic issues one is facing in that moment. An article appearing on the Good News Network website on November the 11th notes how the ayahuasca plant may relieve depression, alcoholism, and addiction, according to what is claimed to be the largest observational study to date on the plant. The article reports that according to the study conducted by a team from Exeter University and University College London, the Amazonian brew contains dimethyltryptamine, or DMT, a psychedelic drug illegal in the US and UK, and could improve your sense of well-being and fight away depression. The team also found that this potent brew is capable of fighting several addiction problems, including alcoholism. DMT is far more effective in controlling drinking among severe alcoholics compared to other hallucinogens like LSD or magic mushrooms. The research is believed to be the biggest undertaken yet to look into the effects of ayahuasca and DMT. Celia Morgan of the University of Exeter and senior author-professor of the study was quoted as saying that several observational studies have examined the long-term effects of regular ayahuasca use in the religious context. In this work, long-term ayahuasca use has not been found to impact on cognitive ability or produce addiction or worsen mental health problems. In fact, some of these observational studies suggest that ayahuasca use is associated with less problematic alcohol and drug use and better mental health and cognitive functioning. According to the study, only some psychoactive effects can be felt from consuming the ayahuasca vine alone. The hallucinogen DMT component is digested in the stomach and remains inactive without the inclusion of a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, or MAOI, which brings out the hallucinogenic properties of this drug. This was widely documented in the 2000 book titled DMT, The Spirit Molecule, a doctor's revolutionary research into the biology of near-death and mystical experiences, written by Rick Strassman. The study says that combining both a MAOI containing plant and DMT containing substance is necessary for the full hallucinogenic effect. A link to the study will be found in the show transcript for those wishing to read further. It is unfortunate, as you heard moments ago, that the authors of the paper identify ayahuasca as a drug and not for what it is, a plant. Regardless of this very minor thing, the study represents a positive step forward in validating the potential for healing that this plant has always demonstrated, and it may contribute to greater acceptance within traditional circles of medicine as more and more doctors begin to remember the true and real purpose of their profession in helping and healing humanity. Also in the show transcript, a PDF document or book will be offered with more information relating to the benefits of cannabis for healing cancer. The book, produced by Justin Kander, looks at many different types of cancers and also offers readers a better understanding of the protective role of our body's endocannabinoid system against cancer. Kander notes the following in his conclusion. The evidence demonstrating the ability of cannabis extracts to fight cancer in humans is truly overwhelming. As shared in this book, there are studies indicating how both phytocannabinoids and endocannabinoids can directly kill or inhibit most major forms of cancer. They induce apoptosis, inhibit angiogenesis, mitigate proliferation, and stop metastasis of cancer cells, among other unique modes of anti-cancer activity. While most studies utilized cell and animal models, a few indicated anti-cancer effects in humans, such as one of Dr. Guzman's studies showing THC-reduced VEGF, a pro-angiogenic molecule, in cell cultures in humans. The scientific evidence alone strongly suggests cannabinoids could work in people. Many now accepted medical benefits of cannabis were first reported in preclinical studies. These studies have shown the potential of cannabinoids to treat chronic pain, spasticity, nausea, anxiety, Crohn's disease, and even intractable forms of epilepsy. Large-scale observational or double-blind placebo-controlled trials have proven that cannabinoids can treat these conditions. Therefore, it has been definitively proven that the benefits observed in preclinical studies extend to humans in many cases. Cancer is no exception. The PDF will also be found in the show transcript and a link to download the material as well. Just before I get into this week's final words, I'd like to quickly share a feel-good story about a woman who raised thousands of dollars to help a homeless man who gave her his last $20 to help her buy gas for her car. The Washington Post article describes how Kate McClure was on her way to Philadelphia, and she ran low on gas. She exited the highway, and then the car engine stopped. She got out of the car in a bit of a panic, and a voice told her to get back into the car and lock the doors. A homeless man named Johnny Bobbitt Jr. just happened to be at the intersection where she was. He proceeded to walk to the nearest station to use his final $20 to buy gas to help her out. She and her boyfriend were so grateful they started a fundraising campaign to help him with an apartment for 4 months. The goal was to raise $10,000, but through the kindness of those touched by the story, over $300,000 was raised at the time the article was written, with donations from over 10,400 people. Abundance flows in the most mysterious and magical of ways. CVN is also running a bit low on gas, and an opportunity to fill the tank up again to keep moving forward is unfortunately necessary, at least for now. I'm looking for other ways to supplement income so that donations will not be necessary in the future, but for now, the kindness and compassion of those who value CVN and have not supported it before is needed. Those who have donated before on a regular basis, I am not reaching out to you. Your kindness has already been able to keep CVN going. I am appealing to those who have not contributed in the past, but who have been long-time listeners. Abundance has the chance to flow back to you when you are willing to share it with others in need. Good Samaritans are everywhere, and each human has the capacity and potential to make a positive contribution in service to humanity and our planet. For now, CVN is receiving donations via PayPal. The email address to donate with PayPal is jeff@greenprintforlife.org, and this link will appear in the show transcript. If there are listeners who wish to donate Bitcoin, please contact me, and I will attempt to set up the process to allow those listeners to do this. My primary goal is to finally be able to rent an apartment and have a place of my own with my own sacred space. It would be wonderful if 2018 could be this year. For those who are able and willing to share, I thank you so very kindly. I intend to explore at least 2 possibilities to raise my own funds, and I will be keeping listeners updated on this progress moving forward. The link to donate via PayPal will appear in the show transcript. In this week's final words, CVN has reported in the past about Asgardia, a project to create a space-based nation in the future. The project has now reached a stage where people who have applied to be citizens of Asgardia can now submit their names to be considered for the Asgardia Parliament. As of several days ago, I have now submitted my name and my personal platform to the Asgardia election campaign. It had been my intention this week to ask listeners to go to their website and vote for me. I have discovered, however, thanks to those who have already voted for me, that one has to register in order to cast a vote. And in fact, that probably makes sense. It would not be fair for me to ask you to join a project simply to vote for me. However, I know that many CVN listeners have already registered with Asgardia. For those who have already registered, I would like to ask those individuals if they would kindly go to the elections page and vote for me. I think I have submitted a realistic yet ambitious plan that supports humanity's future as a birthing galactic star nation. The slogan I have created for my campaign is Creating Together, Evolving Beyond. In my executive summary of my campaign platform, I started out by defining the words life capitalized and peace. Longtime CVN listeners will have heard these definitions before many times. I also wrote the following. My campaign for Asgardia will not make promises that may not be achieved. My campaign seeks to outline the potential for what we can create. Most claiming to want peace do not want peace because their salaries and privileges are dependent upon a world that is not peaceful. Those same people are willing to talk a lot of talk, but very few are ready, able, and willing to make new choices for themselves in practicing what they are preaching. A solution to our current dysfunctional paradigm cannot and will not be found within the same line of thinking that created the dysfunctional paradigm. No politician has ever dared to present a reasonable step-by-step plan for structural societal change. This platform offers one for consideration. Most, if not all, of our planet's current problems can be linked directly or indirectly to three main institutional bodies. Addressing these three will create a domino effect of change that can manifest the world that most are claiming to want to live in. There is also the challenge of resolving the human issues that are coming up within each human. Creating a new society or holistic group is one thing. Helping all of the participants to heal physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually is something else. Without understanding and paying attention to these, any new society is going to face incredible challenges. The veil is being lifted, and the illusion of separation is coming to an end. Humans are stepping into their role for higher service, and some are being called to serve in roles relating to our galactic families, and the role of birthing our planet Earth as a new galactic star nation. I also outlined 3 steps that I feel are required to facilitate the co-creation of a new Earth, or new space-based nation. 1. Expose the root sources of debt, illness, fear, separation, control, and enslavement upon this planet to help individuals understand how they have been manipulated and controlled within an illusion of democracy, or whatever systems of belief they were born into. For Asgardia, an awareness and understanding of this history on Earth will hopefully prevent it from developing in a new space community. Number 2, empower a grassroots movement for those who already understand the nature of their enslavement to criminal systems of control, so that each individual has a chance to discover his or her unique gift, message, or contribution to this new Earth, or Asgardia, and begin to share that message courageously in a life-honoring way. 3. Creating and nurturing a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual environment for the children being born, and all individuals too, that allows them to fully develop and awaken to one's potential within the new community, on Earth or in space. Having this awareness above will allow those creating or co-creating Asgardia to learn from our collective history and have the foresight and courage to make the choices that will not repeat the choices that created our current dysfunctional paradigm on Earth. My background has uniquely prepared me to serve in a capacity for diplomacy on Earth and also beyond. I have an understanding of the structures, the institutions, and the people that have been responsible for the enslavement of humans and the destruction of our planet for profit, power, and control. My preparation has also shown me the illusion of the peace that is being claimed by so many now, and why it can never work within our current paradigm. At the same time, I am able to envision solutions while also being aware of the global forces that have prevented real solutions from being made available to the people of the world, and why it has been done. If one reads my platform further, one will see the diagram I created for my master's thesis in peace education. This Matrix for Life outlines the vision I began developing for global peace more than 15 years ago. This matrix identifies not only the process for one's own awakening, but also one's service in a step-by-step plan that gets to the root of our current global dysfunction. To my knowledge, no politician or representative of a geographical demographic has ever laid out anything remotely close to a step-by-step plan for political or societal change. What I have presented in my campaign platform is what I believe to be the closest to a step-by-step plan that can be achieved within the human limitations we are currently attempting to heal. My dream or desire is to reach out to the leaders of our planet and assist them in remembering who they are and guiding them towards fulfilling their role in co-creating all that humans have been longing to create, while also reminding humanity of the importance of healing everything within oneself as well. If you agree with what I have shared in my platform, then a vote to support my presence in Parliament would be very kindly appreciated. There are 2 or 3 candidates who have several hundred votes already. One has over 800 votes. As long as I can get enough votes to stay on the first page of candidates, I hope that more people will find it easy to find my profile and platform and also vote for it. A link will be posted in the show transcript for the final words where one can go to submit a vote for me. You may have to scroll down to find my profile and platform. It is under the name Cosmic Vision News and my slogan, Creating Together, Evolving Beyond. I have attempted to serve in other capacities, but have been unable to do so because the vision I am attempting to share is not in alignment with the agenda for profit, power, and control. The main focus is service, but it also requires each parliamentary candidate, myself very much included, to do the inner healing and personal work to create a true representative body that can honorably serve Asgardia, but more importantly, all humans on and beyond our planet and all civilizations beyond our planet, as well as our planet itself. It is my hope that many of you can find a moment to help co-create something that may lead to humanity's opportunity to evolve beyond. Thanks for your vote of support. Create a fantastic week until our next moment of now. So, that is a sample of the unfolding higher consciousness news around the world this week. Cosmic Vision News is broadcast weekly, and a transcript of this broadcast with all supporting links are published in the show transcript on the CosmicVisionNews.com website. CVN can be followed on numerous social websites, including Minds, Unseen, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I'm Jeffrey West, reminding you that small minds cannot comprehend big spirits. To be great, you have to be willing to be mocked, hated, and misunderstood. Stay strong. Until our next moment of now, may you be guided and protected in your service to humanity and our planet. Namaste.